Hello engineers, welcome back to another episode of Automate It. We are working on World 3 Level 9 Singularity at the end of the forest. By the way, all of these names are puns, and if you know what the pun of this is, let me know in the comments. I don't know what this one is, Singularity at the end of the forest. Anyway, let's get into it. We're going for a 5-star solution. Map looks reasonably small. That seems to be the theme of World 3. It's like really small, compact map with a lot to do. We're trying to make a Celestial Apex Singularity. The names are getting crazier and crazier. You can tell by the length of this line how big this process actually is. It's a final process is actually just a dissolution chamber that makes it with 2 inputs, no liquid or anything, but to make this stuff is pretty insane. So why don't we just get started on one side of things? So we're either making the Stellar Nexus Singularity, or we can make the much bigger and more difficult thing on this side. We've made this thing previously, the Astral Ethelens, and this is new, Temporal Prison Circuit. So let's get on this process first. Our target is... Let's have a quick look. This is going to be confusing. There's no alternate recipe for this. I'm just going to collapse some stuff. I think I can collapse all of this, right? So I don't look at it, and then we can focus on what we're trying to make. Is there anything shared between the two though? Nothing major. Yeah, I think the approach will just be to focus on doing this thing first. Now, fortunately for us... Wait, how many... This is before I say fortunately for us, how many do we have to deliver? We have to deliver 45 in 320, or just under 2 minutes. 45 in just under 2 minutes. So our target would be like 45 per minute. So I think one doing 30 per minute might be just enough, or we might have to target for 2. An overclock dissolution chamber, which seems reasonable because you only need 30 of each of these. So we're going for 1 manufacturer then. Between these processes, let's have a look at this new one. So we have to make this chromium crystal wafer, which takes the base material and power cables of some sort. Let's see if there's any advanced materials given to us in this map. Nope, nope, nope. Though, reinforced aluminum beam is a very, very advanced material. Any advanced liquids given to us? Liquid deuterium, it's just one process away. And everything else is just base materials, okay? So we've been given this reinforced aluminum beam. So we should definitely use that straight up. That's got to be advantageous to make the nebulite prism. To get to 60, we need to get 60 of this, which means we need 60 of this. So why don't we get started on the nebulite prism first? I'm going to zoom in here so that you guys can see what we're trying to make. Essentially, we're just trying to make this in a welder. We have nebulite, it's down here, the aluminum is there, and we just need 1 welder to make them join together. It's gonna do it nice and centered for now. I know we're gonna have to move this somewhere. Either we're gonna have to move it up or move it down, I don't know yet. But there's your 60 per minute, nice and simple first part of the step. We need 120 per minute of this, so 120 goes into a cutter, which can turn that straight into the substance we need. So in theory, we just need that. So that's coming out at 300, but we need 120. Now, this is something I've been wanting to experiment with as well. If we look at our machinery for the cutter, that thing costs 8, right? So if I overclock it, then this machine is going to cost... Does it give stats anywhere? Let's assume like something like 2.5 times 8, which is 12 extra power. But if I were to use 2 cutters to do this instead, which would look like this, and then you'd have to merge them at some point, right? Like, let's just assume that. Isn't that 10? Because if you look at logistics under the splitter, doesn't that cost 10 and that costs 2? So that costs 12 anyway. So it's always better to overclock a cutter. 1645 1665. It costs 20 for some reason. What? That makes no sense mathematically. If you're enjoying the video and you want to support Data Engineer Plays, don't forget to leave a like and hit that subscribe button. And if you have any feedback or suggestions, feel free to share them in the comment section. But yeah, the space saving that we gain for the extra cost of the cutter is definitely worth it. Anyway, all that's to say that we're getting 120 of this, and there's no alternate recipe for this green thing, so we definitely need to make all this. Next, we're gonna try to get to this thing, liquid deuterium, which again is just provided to us up here. So we don't even have to do anything with that. So the only challenge is going to be this little thingy-mabob. We need to make 120 of this, which means we need 60 of this and 120 of this. Now, the easiest way I like to make this is using the simplistic recipe of using that. But depends if we've been given steel. If we've been given steel, sometimes it's easier to just use the steel. We have not been given steel. And therefore, I'm opting to use the copper recipe for now until I find something better. The advanced press turns 60 into 60, whereas the furnace turns 30 into 30. So the input output is the same. It's either whether you want to use 4 advanced furnaces or 2 advanced presses, or in our case, 1 overclocked advanced press, though we would have to make 2 of these. So we'd have to overclock this as well. That's fine. That's just 1 welder or 1 advanced cutter with copper. Let's see if we can get all the copper out for this process. So I like to do things with singular instances first. So the advanced cutter, the furnace, the press. There's a nice clean build for this, which is that. Then you just need to route the copper into this. Something like this. And the copper in. That gets you your 60, except we need 120. So we need to double this. We need to double this and double that. So let's overclock all of it. I'm telling you, everything here needs to be overclocked. And we can save a belt by just putting it right here. That'll get us our 120. And then 120 goes into an advanced press. Overclock that, and that gets us our 120. Then it's going to join with this thing. So it makes sense to maybe bring it down here. I mean, we have to invest in a little bit of belt, but that's fine. But at least these are now together, and into an advanced press you can go. I like this. Can we move this like 1 tile down? So we'll move it 1 tile down and fit this like a lot cleaner, because you already know space is going to be the main issue in these builds either way. Oh, if only I could fit this like that. Do something like this. That'll go in there. And that'll go in there. Is that the output for this? Yeah, it is. Fix this side up, and then there you go. There's your 120 in a nice little compact form factor. That's pretty much everything that we need for this. Then at some point, these 4 things need to go into a dissolution chamber. And where we do that is going to be a little bit how you're going. But let's have a look at the other parts of the process, and then the positioning should reveal itself to us. Obviously, we want to make this thing, this astral ether lens. What options do we have? If we use liquid nitrogen, that would be the easier way to do it. Otherwise, we have to make brine. Do we have brine? We do not have brine. We can make brine with... That's not salt. This is water. There's no salt on the map, which tells us we can't even make brine. That makes life a little bit easier. So we can't do this. Oh wait, we don't need to make brine, my bad. So we can just biofluxer the water into liquid oxygen with 2 biofluxes. And it looks like we have to do that because there is no liquid nitrogen. Damn. 2 biofluxes is going to be a little bit of a pain. That's what that's going to look like. Let's highlight this. So 1 biofluxer, a second biofluxer, and they can't connect to each other. We take the oxygen from that and put it through a biofluxer to make what we need. The oxygen is purple. Why is this process so unfamiliar to me? I feel like this is the first time I've ever done this. And that gets us liquid oxygen. Liquid oxygen goes with ether quartz to make this. I didn't check what volume we need this in. 60. So 60 into a dissolution chamber makes 60 of this, which is what we need for the advanced furnace. The material we need to ether quartz is this. So I kind of want to reverse that if I can, because we know this is not used for anything else. So we would just put a dissolution chamber, say here. I suppose it doesn't really matter. It just costs a little bit more liquid pipe, which we can optimize a little bit more. I'm going to run it along here, and then we're just going to go straight up. I like to run my pipes as long as possible and then figure it out. Something like that. Cut the excess. There's our 60 per minute of the refined ether quartz. Then we want to make the other half of this that goes into the advanced furnace, which is the astrolite infused core. That goes into an advanced press with the astrolite. That's astrolite straight up. But we need to make this quantum core singularity. So let's figure out how to do that. And whether there's alternative methods to doing that. We can bring in less material to make this, to make more of this. If we need 120, but we don't. We need 120 of this. So we would need to double the amount. We need 120 of this, which means we need 120 steel. How's our copper situation going? Are we using up all of our copper here? So one set of this would use up 120. Two sets is 240. So we have 240 copper left. So that should be enough copper for this process. But we still need to make steel. There's the iron. There's the coal. We got to mix them into steel. We don't need the advanced furnace method. We can just do it in a welder. Because we only need the 60, which will cut into 120. It's going to center it so that the process can start at the same time. This isn't really centered, but you know what I mean. I don't want to do it like this, but we'll leave it there for now. We do need to furnace this first. So there's our 60 steel. It goes into a cutter. That gets us our 120 steel sheet, and it needs to mix with the copper. That means I need to split out the copper some more, which means I need to shift everything out one. That's not as easily said as done. Now I'm really tempted to move this over to this side for now, because it fits neatly here, right? I'm just going to move this over here for now, and then we'll figure it out later, because I need to shift all of this out one. Like that. And that way we can first split the copper, and then we just need to cut the copper. Just trying to see where to split the copper. We'll figure that detail out in a bit. Where are we going to put this puppy? You can do it here. That. Get an even start on this. There's your steel sheet. Goes into a manufacturer. Like that. Might chuck a lift here. Then we'll get this going the other way. Bring all of this down one tile. That doesn't work, does it? Not really. Get a lift going like that then. Then we just get that to that lift. That's gonna take a while to boot up, but that's fine. What are you missing? You're missing this thing's process, which is a cutter. Where can I put a cutter? Let's put both my cutters here, make it easier. Doesn't like that. Overcomplicating things here right now. What does it hurt me just to move this back one tile? We'll optimize it later. There you go. Need to overclock this to get the 120 that we need. And then we need to mix that 120 with Astrolite. All this is done in the wrong spot, in an advanced press. Might just do it down here. Should we do it down here? Should do it up here. Because in the time it takes the Astrolite to travel up here, we should be all good. But actually, we can't even get this material out anymore because of this stupid pole. Can't you go in? Can't we go in this way and then in this way? Yeah, we can do that. Now we can get this material out. No, we can't, because this material needs to come out and this material also needs somewhere to go. Let's just use the space we have here. I'm like trying to conserve space too hard. So we'll just do that. But now, get this all going. What are you missing? You're getting steel and iron. But we're not getting cut. There we go. There's our 120. That needs to go into an advanced press. Say like this. Probably like the worst place for it as well. Can we go back one tile at all? Not really. We can move this later on, that's fine. But let's move this out of the way. We need to advance cutter this. And then we need to split off the Astrolite over here into the advanced press. So let's just get the belt going for that. It doesn't matter where I put this belt. I just want to line up the elevator to it. Then we'll get the elevator lined up like that. And there's our 60 per minute of this. That 60 per minute of that needs to mix with this. So it would really make sense for the advanced press to maybe be facing this way a little bit. At least they'll be kind of together. So we'll get that going out this way. Get a lift in here. Can we move this maybe like one more out this way? That would be fantastic. Because then this can come straight in like that without the need for a lift. There's our 60. And that needs to mix with the... Sorry. That needs to go into an advanced furnace with this material over here. An advanced furnace. Oh man. That's what that looks like. Now we want to redo this pathing a little bit. If possible, we want it to go something like that. Why is that not possible? Why can't the support stand be here? I don't get it. There we go. That lets me do that. Why do I want to do that? Because I'm going to move this out to the side as well. Looks like liquid pipes never need support, so it's good to get them out of the way. It really wants to be here. I'm going to move my liquid pipe out this way and then up. I think that would be better. Get it out of the way. And then I can maybe bring this down somewhere because I really want my thing to be here. Apparently it doesn't need that support pipe, right? So we want something like that. Ideally we'd want, let me just try to get this out of the way. This thing is super annoying. This is what we want. And then can this not wrap around this way? Like, is it just, it hates doing that. So that necessitates me going around the long way. Like that. But that gets me my 60. 60 astral ether lens is done. Along with this triangular thing. Now we know where we want to put this triangular thing. Ideally, the dissolution chamber would be like down here somewhere, because it's going to mix with this thing at the end of the day. It's going to do something like this for now. That's one material. The other material is here. Now it's in the way of this thing. I don't like this. I'm going to get rid of this for now. Because we can always just put it a slightly different direction facing. Right? We don't need to put this in the most inconvenient spot possible. But where? This thing is always a menace. Well, now we know where we can move this thing. We'd rather move it like this, because then that can go into the dissolution chamber straight away. Ideally, we want something like that. The third input for the dissolution chamber is this thing we made up here. So that's going to be another path into here. So we're going to do something like this. It's going to move this advanced furnace out of the way and bring this down first. So there. Then that goes in there. Is this the most efficient place to put this thing? Kind of. Don't forget, we still need to mix it with the liquid deuterium. And then what do we get? We get that, which we mix with the output of the advanced furnace. And then we're pretty much there. Oh, we haven't made this thing yet, but that's just more of this green thing. Mixed with more of this. Okay, so we pretty much know the full process. We need to optimize this part as well to make even more of this. Because we need we only need 30 per minute of this. But we're trying to do it at double speed, so we need 60 per minute of this. And we should have enough copper to turn into that. Because we're only using 60 of the copper here. But we need to make more of this. How much more? 60. 120 turns 120 into 120. So 60 would be 60. So we need to overclock this thing basically. Because we needed the 120. Oh, we've already overclocked this thing. So we need a second one of this thing. I'm going to try to fit it here. But it's going to be very tight. I think the challenge is going to be fitting another one of these machines over here, basically. We don't need to turn it into this. We just need to make this part of it. But fitting this machine into here around the copper is going to be very challenging. I'm not seeing the space for it. I want to build it around the copper, but it's going to be a little bit hard. And then the final output is going to be there. So can we put our final machines over this side so we don't have to deal with them? It's going to be a final dissolution chamber. One of the inputs is going to be this thing, making 60. No, that's... Wait, what is the advanced furnace doing again? The advanced furnace is making this thing, so it's not this. It's a dissolution chamber. And into the dissolution chamber goes a manufacturer and an advanced cutter. Because we want to utilize the space over here for something. We don't want to just drag a big belt out there at the very end, right? But then everything that we manufacture needs to go that way, to go there. And we're not using this thing, this stone. Why are we not using the stone? We could not make the power cables, because that's 120 power cables and that's another 120 power cables. If we didn't make the power cables and we use the stone and this to make this instead, that would slightly be easier. You need 120 to make that, but we can overclock that. And we would only need 120 stone and 120 iron. That would be this. Okay, I think that's easier to fit in than what we were trying to do. So we're just gonna move this back a little bit. But then we would need to move all of this a little bit as well, because the iron then needs to be split. Sure, the iron needs to be split, that's fine. We can disassemble this for now. The iron and the stone both go into cutters, into an advanced press. That's pretty big as well. The end doesn't have much stuff to do, so I'm almost tempted to move this process over to this side for now. So we do something like that. Then we can bring this deuterium down here with this. But at least that creates space for us to work here. Most annoyingly, making an advanced press. I want to face it like this way, because then can this go out, say like here? It can. Nice. So I'm going to do something like that. And then something like that. Doesn't matter where we put the cutters in this instance. That makes our 60. If we overclock this and overclock that, that gets our 120. And then we need to mix it with the cube in an advanced cutter. But our cube's being made over here. But we're already making the maximum amount of cube at the moment. We need to make even more cube. Where's this being cut? Here. So if we were to overclock this, what are we missing? We'd have to overclock that. And then we'd have to upgrade this belt. That gets us our 120. And then were we to put a cutter here, I'm just going to move this back a little bit to give ourselves a little bit of breathing room. Putting a cutter here would give us our 240 that we need, which we can split into this, into two manufacturers, making this. We don't actually need 120. No, we do need 120 because we want to make 60 of this. Okay, so there's no clean way to do this. But this is enough here. So I want to shift this process downwards a bit. Give ourselves more room to work. There's nowhere to shift this down though. What if we did a three-way splitter? That would make it a little bit better, right? We play around with this process over here. If we did something like this instead, shift that down one tile and did that, that's a little bit cleaner this way, giving us a little bit more room to work this way. Like that. There's our 120 of that. That needs to mix with this into that. So can we do something like that, face it the right direction and hook this around this way? That way that one's pointing down and I know it needs to mix with either this or something down here. That cleans that up a little bit. We don't need this crazy monstrosity belt now. That gives us a lot of room to work over here. We want to shorten this cable as much as possible, but at least as this comes out into a 240 belt, we can technically carry it into two manufacturers. Overclock that as well. Split that in using a high level belt that gets us 120 into each. The other part of the manufacturer is this. Copper. Why did we make 120? Because we need double the thing. Oh man. So we do need all the we do need to get another copper thing going. There's no alternate recipe for this that doesn't involve 120 of these things. Just wondering if I'm selecting the right recipe. Is there an alternate recipe to this that doesn't involve me making another 120 of these things? Not really. That's not enough copper though. That doesn't make sense. So if we bring the copper over to the manufacturers, just trying to figure out where the best place to split the copper would be. I'd like to do it this way then. And then if we put in our lift, say here and here, not enough space for a cutter. This is the configuration we need. Let's just do it dirty first then. Because we need a cutter at the end of the day before we bring this over. And then that needs to be split. It can't just go in like this. What? So I need a space for a cutter as well. That means I need the cutter over here making 240 of this, don't I? No, we only need 60. No, but we're doubling this. So we need 120 of each. Damn. So there's no way to do this without... I'm trying not to use my orange belts, but I don't think there is any way of doing it without the orange belts. We have to cut it first, and then we'd have to like split it somehow at some point. It would have to be through here, right? So the lift would go here then. Then this split would go here and around the back like this. That's the only way I can think of doing it. I don't like it. It's not the most efficient way to do it. But it will work at least. There we go. There's our two belts of 120 of this. One of them needs to mix with that in a advanced cutter. I feel like I almost have enough space to just do that here now. Not there, but there. So little space. We want to put the advanced cutter here. Then can we fit the other thing there then? Not really. I can give myself more space by moving this all up. Because ultimately at the end of the day then, these things need to go up that way, right? So if we give ourselves, say, maximum space this way, then where would we put the advanced press? Like here? Then that would go around the back, and that would go around the back as well. This splitter can go somewhere potentially a bit better. There's nowhere better. We can cut this here. Would save some belt, right? like that, then does that give this advanced press space to maneuver? Not really. We would still need some sort of lift, which is a bit sad. Like that, and then that can go into there. I think something needs to be cut at some point though, doesn't it? Stone, they both need to be cut. But we can fit a cutter here, and we can fit a cutter here. The cutter being here is a little bit annoying, because if we overclock this cutter, then we have to upgrade this belt. Overclocking this cutter is fine. Then we can overclock that. That gets us our 60 per minute of this final product that goes into the dissolution chamber. That's a solution. It's not a great solution. Now, I'm going to make sure this thing is still coming out. Everything here is doing its job, and this looks very, very tight and neat now. So let's piece together the other side of things again. So we've got plenty of room to work here. So let's piece together this thing first. It's a dissolution chamber to make this green thing. And the thing this green thing mixes with is this astral prison lens, which is made using this thing over here. So we'll just bear that in mind. This thing and this thing. But to start this off, I think this is the good direction that we want to go. And then at the end of the day, it's going to be in a dissolution chamber somewhere. Let's just do the dirtiest thing first, and then we'll adjust accordingly. The third physical material for this is this thing that's coming from up here. So let's give this thing the minimum amount of travel, which is like that. If that's its minimum amount of travel, then the dissolution chamber I kind of like back here maybe. Then we can maybe face this way. We don't have to worry about belt evenness, because obviously this is not going to be the main blocking factor for all of this stuff. Space is more important. Don't forget, we still need a belt out here somewhere at some point. So then in that case, knowing that, wouldn't it be better to do that? And that. And then we'll move this elevator here. And then just do like that. This now gets all three of its components at the correct speed. 60 of this. Sorry, 120 of that. 120 of that and 60 of that. It just needs this thing, which we can do any which way. We'll have to use this one. Where can we bring this in from? Probably in between these two would be a smart move. Let's bring a pipe out this way. And then we'll work on somehow connecting these two pipes. Like that. There's this material. Fantastic. That material, temporal prison circuit, needs to mix with this material. And this material is made from... Have we done this yet? So this is what the other 120 of this is for. That mixes with this. Now, there's no clean way to get this out anymore, unfortunately. We're gonna have to double lift it, which kind of sucks. Is there no clean way of getting that out? What if we moved this thing to this side then? That would mean this thing would go to this side. But that sucks. We can put it like here. And then this thing can go like, say, here. And then it can go that way. And this one can go into here. If we were to do that, we'd need to transport this stone over to this side. And that would make this thing easier to transport. If I move this a little bit further out, and did that, that still works, because then that allows me to put my cutters here. If we get rid of this, then this will be very easy to deal with, because we just want that overclocked to 240. And then we just need an elevator. Why do we want to face this way though? Wouldn't it be better if I face this way? And then we just did that. That's like roughly the same amount of belt, but that allows my cutters to be here, which means I can just do that. And now I just need to transport my stone in here. Isn't that a lot cleaner? Like that. And that. Then I just have to transport my stone into here, which it doesn't like. What is going on over here as well? So the elevator's at the wrong height, that's why it doesn't like it. There we go. Now, this cutter needs to be overclocked. This doesn't need to be overclocked. Alright, this cutter never needed to be overclocked. I overclocked it for no reason. But there's the 120. And there it is. There's our 60 still. But I did all that so that I didn't have to do some janky belt here, because we know this needs to come down here somewhere to mix with this. And that's why we left the space for it, and it's done in an advanced press. And then it needs to mix with whatever's coming out of here. So let's work backwards, because that then needs to mix with this in a manufacturer. Oh my god. So many processes. So let's make this first in our advanced press. That's not super hard. We can put one of the materials, say here. That's just that. Then we need the other material, which is this. We can bring it around. And then we can bring it up in a way that doesn't intercept this one. So we'd like it here maybe, like that. And then, yes, it let me do that. There we go. That's our that material. That material needs to go with this material, which is coming out of this. But they're coming out at the same spot. So I need to maybe like move this. Don't want to intercept this. No, I can get rid of that. Okay. Like that. What we need from that is this liquid, which we can just bring any which way. Try to do it as out of the way as possible. Like that. We're getting somewhere. So this material and this material. What are you not getting anymore? This lift is disconnected. Oh, what? Without that little branch thing, this lift is screwed by one tile. Come on, you can't be that mean to me. Can we move it out one this way? And then are you happy? Yes. These two materials go into an advanced furnace. And there's literally nowhere to put this. There you go. There's our 60 per minute of this, which needs to mix with the 60 per minute of our other thing. But now the other thing is kind of an issue. Can invest in a belt that does that. And that gets us this thing and this thing. And they're kind of next to each other, which is fun. But I put my thing over here like this. Now I can just go straight in there and straight that way. Now these two things are like right next to each other, which is convenient. But what do they need to go into to make this? A manufacturer. Is that conveniently like amazing? We've got it. I mean, ideally I would have liked all of this up here, but that involves transporting multiple materials upwards. So wouldn't I rather just do that there? Now my material over here is there, and then my other thing is there, and at the end of the day, it just needs to go into a dissolution chamber. But Where does that dissolution chamber go is another question. Because while this thing comes out neatly here, can I bring it here? I can't. Let's just bring it anywhere for now, and then we'll optimize later. Always optimizing later. There's one material in. That didn't work because we need it a little bit further out. Cross that water pipe. There's one material in, and then this other material needs to go into here, which means it needs a lift at some point. Apparently it's just one lift. The perspective is really warped here. Apparently that's the correct height. And that's it. That's the final product. My first iteration of the solution, done. What is the power consumption? Oh, we're actually under. Amazing. But do we get the time? Oh, we'll have to run it and find out. It's all working. Ah, this is only making 30 per minute. I need to overclock this. The whole point was to overclock that machine. That's why we did everything at double capacity. Definitely at 30 per minute, we're not going to make the 1 minute 50 timer. This thing needs to crank out ASAP. Yeah, I don't think we're going to make it. Or we might just make it. I think this one started really late. 1400 power or less. Didn't I do 1400 power or less? What's my power? 1413. Oh, because I overclocked this machine at the very end. So, yeah. We just need to cut some power somewhere. Only 13 power we need to cut. Where can I cut 13 power? Surely there's somewhere to cut 13 power. These pipes are inefficient. Move something somewhere. Some belt runs too long. This belt runs really long. So this can be now closer. That's an immediate benefit. Because shortening this would help a lot. In fact, can we just like rotate this way? But then that'll affect the startup time. Let's see if this helped enough. $14.05. Well, I can see this belt is also long, and I don't need all this space back here. I could shift everything back one tile. I mean, I can shift these back a couple of tiles. Then we can change the elevator to this side. Can I shift it back even more, I'm wondering? No, because it'll intercept with this belt. This is the furthest back I can shift it. But we can save another belt by going out this way, moving this thing over here, and then flipping this thing. We only need to make a couple of minor adjustments. So that just goes in there. Like that. Now it hates this. Why? There we go. That also makes this shorter inadvertently, which is great. Makes this slightly longer, but that's fine. We can just adjust this back one and save 1 power. Why do you hate this? This thing is no longer getting what it needs because I cut this belt. Ah, now that this thing's out of the way, wouldn't it be better to flip this? And then just go around the back here. How's our power? 1387. Alright, it's not the best. I'm sure there's other adjustments we can make, but I think hopefully the changing of the length here hasn't affected the boot up time. And if it hasn't, then we've got our power, and that's our solution. Five stars, nice. So we're 3 on the speed, but not by far. This thing's only like 3 seconds faster. 5 on the power, and number 2 on space, apparently. Someone's done it with 4 tiles less. There's not many people left on these leaderboards, so either people aren't getting up to these solutions. So my viewers, go download this game and play it. Get on the leaderboard, message me who you are, and I'll shout you out if I see you on the leaderboards. There's only one picture in the gallery, and is it better than us? 1387 power, 1397 power. Yeah, this is not better than ours, so I don't know if we want to get any inspo from this. I don't know if we can see any inspo from this, but yeah, roughly looking very similar to us. He's put his advanced furnace all the way up there, which is probably better, honestly. Everything else, he's put his liquid thingy-mabobs over here, and he's fit all his machinery over there. I want to see where his 2 manufacturers are, if I can spot them. I can't really, but he's making his copper thingy that way, which makes sense, and he's doing his metal thingy that way and looping around the wood this way. I see the manufacturers. Are they it over here? I'm not really sure. Looks pretty clean, but apparently our solution's better. So I think at the end of every video now, I just want to quickly review the solution that we used. So to make this thing, first thing to meet the 5-star requirement, you need to make this thing at double the speed that it produces. So you do need an overclock dissolution chamber, which means you need 60 celestial flux engine and 60 of this. One of the main challenges is going to get the 120 of these green cubes, 2 sets of 120 of the green cubes. And we've done that over here in our 2 manufacturers. To get the input in for that, we needed to make the steel over here, bring it over, and then we just cut them right before they go in the manufacturers. And the other side of it is pretty easy. We just cut the copper into its copper rods, and then we just transport it over and split it. Everything else is very straightforward. It's pretty much exactly just follow the recipes. I don't think there's many alternate recipes. The important thing to make this Stellar Nexus Singularity is to use the alternate recipe that uses the support beams, because if you don't, you're going to have to make more of this, and that's just too much work. Everything here is pretty much just straightforward. You just follow the recipes. I don't think there's anything. Just take note that reinforced aluminum beams does come straight out of one of the nodes, so you don't need to make that. So just follow the other recipes and you'll be okay. Nothing else is particularly complicated. This thing we made and we brought down to mix everything here, and we did our final mixing here, and then we brought 1 item over from this side and 1 item over from this side. This could definitely probably be done better. Like, you'd probably want to start shifting everything up. This is a kind of a tough debate because everything is made of 1 or 2 components, so you'd be like belting up multiple components with multiple lists. I'm not sure if that's going to be better or worse. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.